life of the church. Let's talk about the Holy Father. We've spoken of him, a number of times before, but here we are on the cusp of his, elevation within the universal church to the status of a blessed. Tell us a little bit about that status in particular and where it comes on the road to sainthood.
Well, the universal call to holiness is open to everybody universally, but there are great saints and little saints, and so the Church chooses people who have a reputation for holiness and to make them models and intercessors for the rest of us, from the apostles and the Blessed Virgin Mary herself all the way down to today. The beginnings of the modern quest to see if this person should be in that way publicly honored as a saint. We celebrate All Saints' Day for, I think, and pray my parents are saints with the Lord, but they're not going to be recognized as such by the Church. What has to be done, first of all, is to establish the history of the person's life. And so a diocese or a religious order opens the cause and says, we're going to investigate this. It's like writing a doctoral dissertation in history. Only they're not only concerned about getting all the facts and all the words that he wrote and said and the witness of people who knew him or her. They're also concerned to prove in that thesis that the virtues that define our life as disciples, the theological virtues of faith and hope and charity, and the moral virtues of prudence, justice, fortitude, temperance, courage, that they were practiced in his life, evident in his life, in a very heroic way, extraordinary way. So it's like trying a dead person to see if you've got enough evidence to show you're a saint. And when that historical study is done and it's accepted, then the person is declared formally a servant of God. And you can call him venerable, but you can't have any cult. No kind of public intercession. Then we've done everything we can do. We've shown what the person has done, and we've done the research. It's up to God to do something, and that's when you start praying to see if God, through the intercession of this individual, will open up the curtains of the world so that something extraordinary happens that is miraculous in the sense we can't explain it. Usually it's a physical cure. It doesn't have to be other kinds of miracles. But that has to be carefully scrutinized by medical people, by theologians, etc. If the Church accepts this action as a genuine miracle, then that's considered proof that we have an intercessor in heaven. Then they beatify, and the person is called blessed, and there can be public prayers to the person. And then we wait and see if God's still on the job, and another miracle occurs, and then that's when canonization occurs, and the person is called a saint.
What's the value of this public elevation? As you mentioned, you hope that your parents are in heaven.
Sure.
Many of us may have known truly saintly
Holy
people,
sure,
but they're not going to be publicly recognized. Mm-hmm. Why is there a value to having these individuals who are so recognized?
Well, if they're recognized as saints, the end of the thing, then you have moral certitude, the certitude of faith that that person is in heaven. And it's the communion of saints. It's a family, those who are living, those who are dead, those who are living forever with the Lord. And so family people talk to God about one another. And so you have somebody whom the Church has said publicly you can ask to intercede with the Lord himself. So there's that advantage. And the second advantage is that you have somebody who witnesses to a particularly heroic way of living the life of discipleship that we're all trying to live. And so it gives us courage. When somebody is publicly recognized as a saint, his or her virtues become ours, where we can share. That's why we all rejoice in something like this. We've got somebody now who has lived the life of grace, and if they can do it, we can too. And more than that, their own virtues are not only models, they're also ours in that life of grace that comes from God's infinite love. So there are many advantages to it, and it brings new life into the Church. I remember when the founder of my religious order was finally canonized. It brought new life into those of us who called him our father, who called him founder.